Get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Hola, mi amigos, compadres y muchachos. Bienvenido al Anima... Un momento. ¿Por qué? Okay, testing, 1, 2. All right, perfect. Sorry, everyone. I think I started with the wrong dub. Anyways, welcome everybody to AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How are you all doing today? I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. I hope you all had a great week. And hopefully we could come back here to be a lot more energized, because I could tell you right now that we are definitely going to have a unique and fun-filled episode. Because this is going to be one of those times where I'm going to be separating some of the aspects of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Of course, throughout the whole thing, you will be having AniMat, but there are going to be some news that will be related more to cartoons, and then there are going to be other times that will be related to crazy. And trust me, when it comes to the crazy aspect, they really do emphasize crazy. So strap yourselves in, because we are definitely going to be in for a wild one. So with all that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall, and it's time to ask you all, everyone, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Castle? Let me hear it, folks. Let's see what we got here. Okay, yep, okay, wow. People are already prepared. That is wonderful to hear. So, with all said and done, I believe it is now time that we shall go and get things started. And with the first story that we have for you today, well, this is actually the most unexpected one. We were just minding our own business, and then suddenly, poof, this announcement came in right out of the blue. And it really does seem like something that would be a massive deal, especially for something that comes from a highly beloved franchise. And now they're going to be coming in with a brand new installment, and not just any small little add-on series. I mean like a full-on theatrical movie and a new installment to add an additional number to its title. So with that said, let's go ahead and start things off by talking about Kung Fu Panda 4. Yes, folks, you heard that right. There is indeed going to be a Kung Fu Panda 4. And on top of that, Universal has already set the release date for the film, to which it is going to be coming out on March 8th, 2024. However, from this entire announcement, there is one major catch. That's literally all that we know. We just know that there's going to be a fourth Kung Fu Panda movie, and we know the release date is going to be in early 2024. We don't have any other announcements whatsoever regarding what's happening here. We don't have any confirmations about the cast and in terms of who's going to be coming back, although I think it is safe to assume that Jack Black will be returning as Po. We don't have any confirmation in terms of who's going to be the director of this picture, or directors. You never know if they're going to go with 1, 2, or maybe even 3, like Spider-Verse. And we don't even have a confirmation of what the story is going to be about, or if it's going to have any major connections to some of the extensions to the Kung Fu Panda franchise. Like, we don't know if this is going to be an immediate successor after Kung Fu Panda 3, or if it's going to be related to any of the Kung Fu Panda shows that came out, like either on Nickelodeon or on Amazon Prime, or even the recent one that came out about a month ago, in which Jack Black actually returned as Po. So again, the only thing that we do know is that we're going to get a Kung Fu Panda 4, and it's going to be coming out on March 8th, 2024. So yeah, I think it is safe to say that this news is pretty unexpected. And let me just go and start things off by saying that, Yes, I am one of those people that absolutely loves the Kung Fu Panda movies. They are definitely awesome. I really enjoyed the first movie. The second one I find to be one of DreamWorks' best feature films. Like, that movie is honestly one of the best animated sequels out there. And the third one I do find to be good, but I do feel like it is also the weakest of the Kung Fu Panda movies, where it's not necessarily as strong, but it is still solid in its own right. Like, I pretty much view it in the same way of how Lightyear is compared to the other Toy Story films. Yes, it is technically the weakest of the franchise, but it is still solid as is. So that's just my quick thoughts on the Kung Fu Panda movies. So yeah, I am definitely a big fan of them, and definitely a great example of the capabilities of what DreamWorks Animation could do. But with that said, I've honestly haven't seen any of the other like extra lore or extra stories related to Kung Fu Panda. I have yet to watch any of the shows that are based on Kung Fu Panda. I have yet to actually see the new series based on Kung Fu Panda. I mean, from what I've heard, like, yeah, it does have a bit of its own fan base, especially with the die-hard Kung Fu Panda fans, but definitely not as strong as the feature films. So that's pretty much my standings on the Kung Fu Panda movies. But with that said, you'd think that after the third movie, which, by the way, spoilers, they would pretty much, like, fully conclude the Kung Fu Panda lore, especially like it's been out like several years ago. It was back in 2016 that movie came out. And with Kung Fu Panda 3, they've pretty much established that with Po, now he has returned to his panda village and now has become a teacher, where like now he has proven like why he truly is the dragon warrior, and even went into the he temporarily went into the afterlife so that he would go and like fully confront Kai and all his like evil ways of like turning people into jade and to stealing their powers and all that kind of stuff. Admittedly, it's been a little while since I've seen that movie. However, like you would think that it would seem like a fitting conclusion to the entire Kung Fu Panda lore. Like, yeah, sure, they could keep on going with like additional shows like to tell extra stories, but you'd think like at least in terms of the main narrative of Kung Fu Panda, they would end it off there. But then suddenly, out of the blue, they suddenly announced that now we're getting another Kung Fu Panda. And not just that, but a full-on Kung Fu Panda movie. And we're not 100% sure in terms of what they really want to do with the show. We're not 100% sure what they want to do with the movie. We don't know how much more are we going to see in terms of Kung Fu Panda. Like, what else can we add to the Kung Fu Panda legend that is bigger than what you would normally plan for just an animated series or something like that? Honestly, like it pretty much, I have no idea of what they could do. And especially, I don't know if they're going to have like any major connections to any of the TV shows that came before it. But then again, I would highly doubt so, because if we do look back into something like How to Train Your Dragon, technically, like, you could watch the series to go and further understand your knowledge on the How to Train Your Dragon mythos, but it's not necessary. Like, you could just watch the main, like, the 3 movies and you should be good to go. It's not like Star Wars, where like now everything has to be so deeply connected, where in order to understand this little aspect, you have to watch a few episodes of the TV show and then like a few extra episodes on another series that they have, and then just go from there. You know, they're not going to go and make like that kind of convoluted Kingdom Hearts style plot line. With Kung Fu Panda 4, on the other hand, I wouldn't be surprised if it's just going to be like directly jumping into after the events of Kung Fu Panda 3, or like taking place several years after Kung Fu Panda 3. But for me personally, I would have to say, like, as someone who, of course, is a fan of the Kung Fu Panda films, I am definitely optimistic to see what they would have in store. And also, I want to go and add in a little bit of a commentary that I do find to be pretty interesting how nowadays we're starting to see animated franchises being a lot more common in terms of having a fourth installment to their film franchises. And even in recent years, we've been starting to see a lot more that are being in development. You know, like beforehand, like those are very rare occasions, like we had Shrek Forever After and Ice Age Continental Drift. But then suddenly we grew more and more and more fourth installments, such as Toy Story 4, Hotel Transylvania Transformania, the Despicable Me 4, in which coincidentally they announced for the same year as this in 2024, and now we're getting a Kung Fu Panda 4. And it's actually funny to see, like, now we're getting more and more of these fourth installments that apparently animated franchises have now agreed that just having a trilogy is not necessarily enough. Now they want to go and like really extend to more different movies. And I might have a little bit of a theory as to possibly why we are seeing this trend becoming a little bit more common with animated features. Like, I don't mean just like little direct to DVD stuff, but I mean like stuff that are like officially canon and released on the big screen and like created by many of the people who have worked on like the original properties and like built by the studio who has created the whole franchise and all that kind of stuff. Now, I do have a little bit of a theory, but first of all, let me just go and make a clarification, because I know some people might go and point out either Shrek Forever After or Ice Age Continental Drift. And those two, I would have to say, those are the exceptions, and they don't necessarily apply to that idea that I have. Because the thing with Shrek Forever After, I just want to clarify that originally DreamWorks Animation wanted to make like an ongoing franchise with Shrek where they would just make movie after movie after movie after movie. But then suddenly, after the disastrous reception from Shrek the Third, even though that was a box office success, the popularity of Shrek just significantly took a nosedive after the third movie. They decided that they're going to scrap any future plans of what they want to do with Shrek, like as an ongoing series, and instead just build a fourth one to officially say that, okay, it's going to be the last film, and we're not going to go and make any more movies starring Shrek. And then you also got Ice Age Continental Drift, the fourth Ice Age movie, and that one is also an exception because, well, we have learned the hard way that Blue Sky Studios was very much dependent on Ice Age movies in order to stay afloat. Many of the other feature films that they were working on were not turning a profit, so the only way that they could legitimately make money was so that they could go and make Ice Age movies again and again and again and again. Which brings me to why I think this is all happening. The reason why nowadays we're seeing movies going up to number 4. And the reason I believe so in the field of animation, I would have to say it's because of Toy Story 4. And again, this is all just a theory. This is just what I think about it. I could totally be wrong, but let's think about this. Because the thing with Toy Story 4, I don't care what anyone else says, but Toy Story 4 was a massive success. Like, it was one of the most successful movies of that year, and it played a significant role as to how Disney dominated the box office back in 2019, because it made over $1 billion at the box office. It was highly praised by critics. It was one of those Pixar movies that was widely critically acclaimed, and it won the Oscar. So this was the kind of movie that really got a lot of attention and pretty much proved that you don't have to stop at number 3 in order to go and make an animated franchise. And especially, not to mention the fact that technically with Toy Story 4, that was a movie that nobody expected, again, that it would actually be made. Everybody thought that Toy Story 3 would be done. Everyone was satisfied with just the Toy Story trilogy. But then suddenly they went and added a fourth one, which technically it is true that nobody really asked for a fourth movie, but they managed to do so anyways, and it turned out to be a massive hit. And it turned out to be another installment of the Toy Story franchise that most people highly accepted as much as the other Toy Story films. Now, from there, this pretty much let out as a massive signal to all the other studios to say that you don't just have to make a trilogy. You can keep the franchise going and you can make a fourth one so that it would still be like as popular, or hopefully as popular as Toy Story 4. Like, the success doesn't just have to end after the third installment, which is why we see more franchises now being less shy to go and continue on after their trilogy. And I know some people might say, well, what about Hotel Transylvania 4? Because technically that one was announced just before the release of, or not just before, but like a few months before the release of or what was it, a few months or something like that. It was announced before the release of Toy Story 4. And with that, technically it is true. But I would argue that technically the success of Toy Story 4 highly motivated Sony Pictures Animation to continue with that movie regardless. That they would still go and keep on making that Hotel Transylvania movie, because I could tell you right now, without that success of Toy Story 4, without the confidence to say that a fourth installment for an animated feature can legitimately work, Sony would probably have just killed off Hotel Transylvania 4 from there. I mean, why else would they continue to make that fourth movie despite not having its main star be featured in the film? Like, the fact that they continued on even without oh, excuse me. The fact that they continued on even without Adam Sandler is almost unprecedented. It's almost unheard of that that Sony would go and do this. Like, yeah, that would be acceptable if it were for like a direct-to-video feature, but for like a full-on major installment to the franchise, and the fact that they would continue so without its main star is kind of a big deal. And I do feel like, again, that Toy Story 4's success might have played a significant influence. And this is probably why we do see, like, now we're getting more movies that are going up to number 4. Even with Despicable Me now getting a fourth installment, and now with Kung Fu Panda coming out with a fourth installment. And I'm going to be honest, at this point, there really, other than that, there really isn't much that I could possibly comment about this, but I will say that as a Kung Fu Panda fan, yes, I am optimistic about this. I love the Kung Fu Panda movies, and I will keep an eye on this. I will be curious to see what they will have in store for the fourth Kung Fu Panda movie. Maybe it's going to be something that's as awesome as the previous movies. Maybe it might be significantly weaker, but who knows? I mean, hey, we're getting more Kung Fu Panda, and I guess I won't be complaining about that. Okay, so I believe with that said, let us now go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you guys feel about the announcement of Kung Fu Panda 4? Do you guys feel like it is a good idea to go and make a fourth installment? Do you guys have your doubts? Are you excited that we're getting more Kung Fu Panda? Or do you feel like it should have just ended after Kung Fu Panda 3? Or at least in terms of the movies? Let me know what you think. Let's see now. Like everyone, I'm surprised that there will be another Kung Fu Panda movie. I grew up with the franchise, as I've seen all three of them in theaters, and all of them were great. Personally, I think it's due to how it is the only older IP from DreamWorks that still remains relevant to the public for TV shows, merchandise, arcade, and even for the short film that DreamWorks Theater at Universal Hollywood, which I attended and enjoyed, unlike Shrek. As long as Jack Black returns, then I will be glad. Yeah, I think, honestly, the Jack Black aspect, I think it's pretty much a guaranteed. I think it's like, for sure he's coming back. If Jack Black is cool with returning as Poe for that Netflix series, he's definitely going to be coming back for Kung Fu Panda 4. That's for sure. The others, on the other hand, I don't really know. Because, I'll just say also, I think, like, when it comes to some of the other actors, it's like, you never know. Like, okay, I don't think Jackie Chan is going to be returning because, like, Yeah, there was that one time in 2017 where he made a little bit of a mainstream American comeback, and then suddenly he kind of like faded off from the limelight. And then there's Dustin Hoffman, whom his career his career is at a grinding halt after the allegations against him has surfaced. So I don't know if we're going to see the return of Shifu. I would say James Hong for sure will be coming back as Mr. Ping. I mean, like, we cannot have a Kung Fu Panda movie without Mr. Ping. I'm sorry. Well, the other popular character of Kung Fu Panda, Tigress, I'm sure Angelina Jolie would be cool to be returning. And for some of the actors, I would say maybe, like Lucy Liu, Seth Rogen, David Cross, as the other members of the Furious Five. That would be a maybe, but I don't know. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. What other comments do we have here? I grew up with the Kung Fu Panda trilogy and consider them some of the greatest animated movies in the world. I really love Jack Black's performance as Po, and I hope that we don't end up with another Hotel Transylvania Transformania. My request is to add Max Greenfield and Ben Schwartz to be among the cast. Oh boy, now in terms of like new people, oh boy, I don't know. The possibilities could be endless there. Let's see. I love the first 3 Kung Fu Panda movies, so to no surprise, I'm hyped for this to no end. My main guess for this movie's villain is that they'll be a part of Tigress's backstory, not just to keep up with the trend, but also to actually flesh out the Furious Five. But I think the one thing that'll make this movie work is if they somehow include Oogway and they have him say, if she will not give you head, sleep with her dad instead. True wisdom right there. Oh my God. But you do bring up a very good point. I mean, who's to say that this has to be about Po? Because we've learned so much about Po throughout the entire Kung Fu Panda trilogy. Like, we learned about his love for Kung Fu in the first movie. We learned about his origins in the second film. And then we go even deeper into his origins in the third installment. So that could be a legitimately good idea that we learn more about the backstory of the Furious Five. But then again, I know there are some like animated shorts and there are probably some other stuff in which we did learn a little bit about the Furious Five's lore, but you do bring up a good point. Like, not only would it help flesh out those characters, but it would give additional material to which we can learn more about the Furious Five. Like, that could be a good idea right there. And especially like if we like Tigress, of course, is like the popular one in the Kung Fu, at least among the Furious Five. So really going deep into her lore, that could actually be a strong possibility. And Po's just going to be there to help her out. And I mean, like, it would be like returning the favor after the events of Kung Fu Panda 3. Like, Tigress played a big role to go and help Po out. Now, like, Tigress is going to take center stage and Po is going to help her out. Let's see what else we got here. Well, this is actually an unexpected announcement. From what I've heard, DreamWorks in the past said that they'll make 6 Kung Fu Panda movies, which make movies left of the which would make 2 movies left of the Kung Fu Panda franchise. If they are going to make a 4th movie, have Po get an actual love interest in the movie, or maybe have Po and Tigress's relationship become even closer. I just hope this franchise doesn't end up like the Ice Age movies, where it's a hit to a big downfall. Honestly, I may have to disagree, because if you don't want Kung Fu Panda to go into the Ice Age route, then don't do the shipping game. I don't know. I don't really see Po and Tigress together. I don't know if that's gonna work. And also, like, give Po a girlfriend? No, honestly, like, after the Ice Age franchise, like, I'm just sick and tired, because, like, that's what they kept on doing to, like, literally no end. Because, like, in every sequel, it's like, oh, now we gotta give Manny a girlfriend. And then suddenly, oh, now we gotta give Diego a girlfriend. Oh, now we gotta give Sid a girlfriend. It's like, yeah, sure. It's like, it's at the point where now it's getting ridiculous to, like, let's give everybody girlfriends. It's like, nah, like, we could go beyond the romantic aspect. It's a cheap route to go. No, I have to disagree. Sorry, dude. Let's see now. Oh, no, I didn't read this one. As someone who really enjoys the Kung Fu Panda movies, the announcement of a fourth movie is a very unexpected surprise. While I'm pretty excited about it, I'm also feeling a bit worried if it'll either be stronger or weaker than the first three movies. But regardless if it's going to be worth it or now, we'll have to wait and see with how it went. Same thing with Despicable Me 4. Let's hope it doesn't get franchise fatigue. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're all hoping for the best. And I mean, if we are going to get a fourth one, then, well, okay, fine. Let's just see how they would go and do it. And maybe they'll pull it off as well as the other films. But then again, I understand the worrisome about it because Kung Fu Panda has a pretty high standard and it's going to be pretty tricky to go, and it's quite an obstacle to try to reach. All right, I think I'm going to read one more comment before we move on to our next story. Let's see now. I honestly don't mind another movie for the series. I believe that this film might start another trilogy of this franchise because apparently the Kung Fu Panda was supposed to be a 6-film series. What I believe is that the first 3 films could be called the Student Trilogy, and maybe the 4th movie could start the Teacher Master Trilogy. Going to keep an open eye for the 4th movie. Honestly, there is a little bit of a flaw because I would argue that technically the 3rd movie is where Po becomes a teacher/master. It was already established that Po is the Dragon Warrior by the end of the first movie. And also, I just want to say that you got to keep in mind with DreamWorks Animation, their plans have significantly changed over time. They're many years ago, they have announced that they wanted to make 6 movies with Kung Fu Panda. But so much has changed with DreamWorks Animation to the point that they are no longer the same studio that they were before. Not to mention the fact that already just the fact that Universal owns DreamWorks Animation is enough of a massive change where whatever plans that they had in the past, it pretty much was completely scrapped. I mean, that was when they announced the 6 movies for Kung Fu Panda, that was probably back in the day when Vivo was still at DreamWorks Animation. So I just want to go and make that big clarification. So whatever you have heard of in the past, you might as well go and throw it out the window because around that same time, they also promised a 5th Shrek movie, and I highly doubt it's even going to happen. And I mean, technically, we are kind of getting one, or technically we're getting a 6th Shrek film with Puss in Boots, but, I just want to put out that little heads up. But yes, overall though, I'm personally I am optimistically curious in regards to what they are going to do with Kung Fu Panda 4, and we will wait and see with what Universal and what DreamWorks will have in store with the 4th installment on March 8th, 2024. All right, folks, now we're going to go and jump to our next story, and I am not going to lie, I am not excited to go and talk about this one, because this is going to be one of those stories that I know it's going to cause flame wars in the comments section and all that kind of stupid crap, because technically we are going to enter in the realm of politics. And already I can hear many people just suddenly jumping ship from this stream. But hold on though, this isn't just politics, it's politics entering the realm of animation. Yes, that's right. Suddenly we're talking about animated conservative content. And what I'm talking about specifically is gonna be regarding the Daily Wire. Yes, you probably have heard about the far-right news company, The Daily Wire, known as the home of Ben Shapiro. And you probably may have recalled, or maybe you have heard about the news regarding the fact that they wanted to go and start a kids and animation division, where they want to go, where apparently one of the CEOs is going to be investing $100 million to go and create kids and animated content, where they will go into the pursuit to go and create, I kid you not, non-woke content. In fact, that is exactly what they described here on my source on the Daily Wire, where it states that the firm launched the streaming platform Daily Wire Plus, and months after it announced its commitment of $100 million into kids' content to counter what it views as woke programming among studios. So that's basically what they want to do. Basically creating anti-woke animated content. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this right now is mainly because we actually got a significant update in terms of that Daily Wire animation side of things, where apparently they hired a brand new senior VP of animation at Daily Wire, and it's actually none other than Chris Sonnenburg, who is known as one of the showrunners of Rapunzel's Tangled Adventures. And on top of that, they also got a few more people who are going to be working for Daily Wire to make those animated content. We got Eric Bascom and Ethan Nicole, who's going to be working for Chris Sonnenburg, as well as David Kentucky Coleman of Pure Imagination Studios, where he's going to be the executive VP of kids content at the Daily Wire. We also got a couple of quotes that I would like to go and read you here from my source on Deadline. First from Chris Sonnenburg, as he states, "It is an incredible honor to join the Daily Wire platform. My goal is to gather the best artists and storytellers in the world for the singular purpose of producing beautifully animated programs. I believe we can create timeless stories for our kids and their families for generations to come." We also got another quote coming from the co-CEO of the Daily Wire, Jeremy Boring, as Jeremy states, "Our expansion into film and entertainment, particularly kids entertainment, is one of our most important initiatives. Along with our key partnership with Dallas Saunier and the company Bonfire Legend, David and Chris bring a level of expertise and experience that is essential to our success in this space. We could not be more thrilled to have them on board and are confident that they will play a critical role in taking our entertainment offerings to the next level." And yeah, that seems to be what is going on around the Daily Wire. Now they are getting more serious to go and make actual cartoons for conservative children. And they actually brought on board one of the showrunners of Rapunzel's Tangled Adventures as one of the head bosses, or at least one of the heads of that animation division. Now, I'm just going to go and make one big clarification about all this. I know that I have a reputation of being pretty outspoken, of talking about politics or getting into political subject matter. But in this case over here, I'm going to go and twist it into something a little bit different. I'm actually not going to be diving into the political aspect as much as you may think. Yes, there will be an aspect where I have to go and discuss about conservatism and their politics, but there's a lot of it where you could take an unbiased look, where you don't have to look into the political aspect of it to see where things honestly might not be going wrong. And I'm not just saying, well, I'm not saying that as a liberal. I'm just saying, like, in general, we're already seeing the signs that this is really not off to a good start. And first and foremost, I want to talk about the aspect of the fact that they have hired Chris Sonnenburg, who was one of the showrunners of Rapunzel's Tangled Adventures. And in terms of that, I just want to go and clarify that I love Rapunzel's Tangled Adventures. You probably recall that last year I did a full review of the series and I adored it. I considered it to be one of the best animated shows based on a movie, or at the very least, based on an animated movie where they really put in a lot of effort to stay as true or to keep the quality about on par as the film that it's based on. And especially with a great movie like Tangled, they really managed to turn that show into something beautiful. So I can understand that for many people out there, it's kind of heartbreaking that one of the big heads of that show would suddenly go and immediately work at the Daily Wire and make that, and pretty much go and make anti-woke content for them. But what's interesting to note, however, is that I have noticed that there have been some people who have been a little outspoken in terms of their experience working with Chris Sonnenburg. And according to them, from their experience with working on the Tangled series, they're not really that surprised. The thing is with Chris Sonnenburg is that he's not a pleasant fellow to go and work with. Like, let's just say that he is the kind of person who would go and do this, who would be willing to go and actually work for a company like the Daily Wire. Not to mention that there have been some cases where apparently he was pretty misogynistic while working on the Tangled series, where he would talk down to women. Now, there are no serious allegations that have been against Chris Sonnenburg, but he's just apparently the biggest accusations are just the fact that he's a pretty unpleasant person to work with. And yeah, he would seem like one of those Daily Wire chuds. I guess that you would go and put it. But the thing is, with the decision of hiring Chris Sonnenburg to be the senior VP of the Daily Wire's entire animation division, that I honestly find to be a very questionable move, because I don't know if the dude is really qualified to go and like take on that massive position. Because let's be honest, like, I actually did do a bit of research on his history and his career. The thing is, with the Tangled series, that really is his only claim to fame. Everything else is just a smaller role in plenty of other animated shows and in animated movies. Now, I just want to clarify right now, this is not to go and discredit Chris Sonnenberg's career. Like, he definitely is a well-established animator. You know, he's been working in the industry for decades. He's been doing a good job at it. But the thing is that he didn't really do anything that would say, like, he is worthy to go and run an entire animation department. Because, like, when you do look at, like, his credits as, like, a writer, a producer, or as a director, he has only worked on Tangled. And yeah, like, you got the Daily Wire stuff like Chip Chilla or Doodles with Noodles, but that literally is just it. When you look at all the other stuff that he actually did work on, you'll find that a lot of them is just him being an in-betweener or him being a storyboard artist. Like, he has worked on plenty of Disney films from the late 1990s up to the early 2000s, like Hunchback or Hercules, Mulan, Tarzan, The Emperor's New Groove, or Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Treasure Planet, most of which where he just worked as a rough in-betweener. And then you would also have, like, several other, you would have, like, several other works that he would do. Like, he's a storyboard artist. He was a storyboard artist on, like, Gravity Falls, on Futurama. He was a layout artist on The Critic and, again, Futurama. But the whole point that I'm trying to make is that really the only one that he has made a name for himself is just Rapunzel's Tangled Adventures. And a lot of people would go and point out that technically, yes, it is true that he did win an Emmy Award, but it's not really that major of an Emmy Award. He actually won for Outstanding Main Title for an Animated Program. It's not that he won that Emmy for the Tangled series in general, it's just for the opening, and that's it. And I want to repeat that this is not to diminish Chris Sonnenberg's career. Again, he's a very well-established animator, a veteran in the field, but I don't think that he has enough qualifications to go and become a senior VP of an entire animation department. I feel like that might be a little bit too big of a jump, going from, well, like, doing their first show running job and then suddenly going immediately to being a senior VP of animation department. That seems a little bit too extreme right there. And that's why I honestly question his leadership. I don't know, like, that might seem like a job where even for him, it would be way too much to go and handle. And then there's another thing that I want to go and talk about that this article did touch upon, but I didn't necessarily fully go into. And that is actually regarding Jeremy Boeing. Like, why are they even doing this in the first place? Like, what is the purpose of the Daily Wire to enter into the animation field? And this is an aspect where, like, it's pretty much unavoidable to go into the politics of this because, well, it really is just because of politics. Because the big reason why they're doing this is to go and fuel the fire of their culture war against Disney. Because their announcement of the fact that they're going to work on animated content for children and all that kind of stuff was actually in response to when Disney decided to back away from supporting Ron DeSantis or any Republican politicians after the Don't Say Gay bill. When Disney decided to be outspoken to be opposed to the bill and be committed to take down any other bill that would come that would limit the rights to the LGBTQ plus community. And of course, conservatives got massively triggered that Disney would not enable their bigotry. And you got the Daily Wire who decided that they're going to go and try to counter Disney by making their own animated content by saying, our non-woke content is going to be better than your woke content. You know, like pretty much emphasizing that kind of stupid crap. And with those intentions, that's why I highly question in the first place if this is even going to work out to begin with. Because one thing you may not know about Jeremy Boeing is that this dude is a very angry individual. The kind of person who would keep on holding a grudge for years, maybe even decades. And instead of looking for therapy, instead of going to any form of counseling or anger management, he lets that fuel and hatred like pretty much be like his core for his conservatism. Like pretty much, I guess you could say like in Star Wars where he listened to Emperor Palpatine like, yes, let the hate flow through you. And that's exactly what he did. And believe it or not, this is not the first time that Jeremy Boeing actually created his own company or created a new division at Daily Wire to go and fight off against a different company. Like, there was actually a razor company that was a longtime sponsor for the Daily Wire. But then suddenly when they started to grow their homophobia and their transphobia, that razor company decided to bail out. And in response, Jeremy decided to go and create his own company. He decided to go and create his own razor company to fight off against the company that bailed out on the Daily Wire. So the thing is that this is all part, like, the thing is that this entire animation division all came from a grudge of a man who refuses to go in and seek help for his anger issues. And that's why with those kinds of intentions, like, okay, I understand the purpose about, like, you know, having competition. But the thing is like, yeah, there have been a lot of studios that grew out of competition against Disney, but that was never their top priority. They never did so for the purpose of trying to fight off against Disney. Their top priority has always been to tell great stories. But you could tell with the Daily Wire, that's never their top priority. For them, it's just a massive political battle against Disney. And that's another thing why I have serious doubts that Daily Wire's animation business is not going to go well. And then there is a third reason that I want to bring up, and this is something that at first it seems pretty impressive, but it's not necessarily as great as you may think, and that is the $100 million investment. The fact that the Daily Wire is going to be investing a total of $100 million to create all these different programmings aimed for children. Which, at first, it seems very impressive. It actually looks really good that you're spending so much money to go and invest, to go and create all these kids' content. You think that's like a very sufficient budget to go and create several different shows. But when you look deeper into it, and when you look at the current landscape in terms of animated shows, especially for streaming, because technically this is what it's going to be. It's meant for streaming on Daily Wire Plus. And in that regard, that $100 million is nothing. Like, really, if you're going to make $100 million for several content, it's not as impressive as you think. And that is mainly because the current landscape of animation, especially animated shows for streaming, the quality and the standards have been significantly raised. They are higher than they ever are before. And a great example of this is actually Arcane. Because the thing is, yeah, you may think it's probably cool and it's impressive to see that they would go and invest $100 million on kids programming, but Arcane literally would go and take that $100 million just to go and make one season. I kid you not. The series that we currently have right now on Netflix, the budget of Arcane is actually somewhere between $90 and $100 million. So from there, like, and you can understand, because like with the massive quality and with the kind of animation that it has, yeah, it is huge. It is very significant. Like, yeah, you could tell that it does have that big budget. So like only getting a show only getting a fraction of that 100 million is not going to be that impressive. But then again, some people would argue, well, technically, like Arcane is not really kids programming. That's adult animation. Well, if you want a better example that is actually kid-oriented, then let's go and talk about Netflix's Green Eggs and Ham. And that show is very well known to have a huge budget. In fact, on the first season alone, that actually had a total budget of somewhere between $70 and $75 million. And if Daily Wire would go and try to make something in the same caliber, yeah, that 100 million is not going to go and cut it. Like, they would just have enough to go and make the show itself, and the rest, well, probably they'll just go and try to spend it on the marketing, and that's pretty much it. They won't have any other money to go and spend it anywhere else. And this is just Netflix, by the way. Other streaming services are also like really picking up their game in terms of the kind of content that they're delivering, where now like the budgets are noticeably significantly higher than they ever were before, especially when compared to like the programs that we used to get on television. Even Disney is really picking up their game, where now both Pixar and Disney Animation are going to go and create content for Disney Plus that's actually long-form series. Like, we all heard that apparently in early 2023, Pixar is going to have that new original series that's, like, I think it's called Win or Lose. And then you got Disney, where they're going to have new animated shows directly from Disney Animation, which includes Tiana and even that Moana series. So now the standards have become increasingly high. Now, one thing that I don't necessarily know is how many shows is the Daily Wire going to go and make? How much is each series going to see that $100 million? Because this really is a matter of quantity over quality. Because if the Daily Wire is going to go and aim to go and produce several different shows, like if they're going to go and make dozens of shows with that $100 million budget, not many people are really going to be that impressed. Unless you go and hire some really talented animators that know how to work around a small budget, like really, not many people are really going to be that interested. And people are just like, regardless of what the politics may be, even if you're the most anti-woke conservative, you're not going to go and watch it because, well, it's just going to end up looking cheap and it's just going to end up looking unimpressive. And on a side note, by the way, there's also one more thing that I want to go and discuss, and that is regarding the well-being of the animators. If they're really going to go and hire like hundreds of animators or dozens of animators, regardless of whatever number of animators that they are going to bring for those shows, how well are they going to be treated? And especially one thing that I am curious to know, is the Daily Wire going to be working with the Animation Guild to ensure the well-being of the animators? And that is something that I would be absolutely shocked if the Daily Wire would be cool with working with the Animation Guild. Because again, this is another political aspect that needs to be brought up, because as you probably know, conservatives hate unions. Like, they view unions as just full-on communism, and they do everything in their power to try to steer away from unions so that well, essentially the rich can be richer and that the poor can be poorer. That's why you see a lot of conservatives actually lean more towards supporting big name billionaires that are very anti-union, such as Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. And from there, well, but then again, I like this is not going to be like a guarantee that the Daily Wire won't be working with the Animation Guild to ensure protection for their animators. But again, I would be massively shocked if they would go and do so, because if the animators are protected by the Animation Guild, then that would be a massive bonus. Then, like, if the animators working on those Daily Wire shows are unionized and they are protected by the union, then that's actually good. Like, I would even, like, if that's the case, then I would actually applaud the Daily Wire for actually doing so, because that would go and ensure that at least the animators are going to get decent pay, that they will have plenty of health benefits, that they will go and that they will ensure to have like proper breaks and stuff like that, that the studios working on those shows are going to follow strict anti-discrimination laws. They will make sure that the well-being of the animators can actually be safe. But considering the background of the Daily Wire, I just feel like I don't think they're going to go and do so. I don't think they have the guts to actually collaborate with the union in order to go and ensure the protection and the well-being of their animators. So overall, just looking at all this, just looking at what the Daily Wire wants to do with their animation division, while there might be a small chance that it could actually succeed and they could actually grow well in the animation business, I just highly doubt that anything that they're doing is working well. And you don't even have to look into the political aspect of it. Like, this isn't about politics. It's just the way they're running their business. A lot of it is just very much questionable, to where it's very difficult to see if any of this would work. Their leadership is highly questionable because it just feels like they're just getting the best people that they could find who would unironically be willing to go and work for the Daily Wire, and they don't necessarily have that much experience working on a massive position, being a VP of an entire animation department. The question of animators' well-being is pretty much on the line. Like, we're not sure if animators are going to be treated well when working on it, because there is a very strong chance that they'll be non-union and whatever benefits they'll get is not going to work out. The budget is honestly very questionable, where we don't know how many of their shows are actually going to see that total of the $100 million investment that they're going to go and put in. And there's also the intentions of all this in the first place, where this is nothing more but to just go and add fuel to the flames to whatever dumb culture war that they want to do against Disney. And I'm just going to say right now that, honestly, there's only one other reason that I find that it makes perfect sense as to why the Daily Wire is doing this, and that is because of tax breaks. It's to go and exploit some kind of loophole in the tax laws so that they don't have to go and pay as much as they have to in terms of their taxes. Because let's think about this. Technically, you could say that the purpose of the Daily Wire's animation division is already taking full effect right now. That this is nothing more but to keep on radicalizing their base, to keep them angry, to keep them hating Disney, to still keep their bigoted mindset of hating the LGBTQ plus community, to keep them angry, to keep them radicalized, and to keep them in their place so that they could still go and consume Daily Wire products again and again and again. And then, by the time that the animated Daily Wire stuff would go and come out, well, at that point, they know very well that they're incapable of competing against Disney. They know that their sales are not going to be that great. And eventually, maybe in a few years' time, they're going to go and scrap the entire animation division and they're going to go and reap the rewards of whatever tax breaks that they have collected throughout that entire time. So honestly, I feel like that is a much more logical explanation to why they're doing this. It's nothing more but to keep on radicalizing their base, to keep on hating woke culture, and to keep on hating Disney, and to go and like collect the taxes as much as they can so that they don't have to pay as much as they technically need to the government. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, honestly, overall, like, of course I'm not like, of course there's no freaking way I'm gonna be watching this, and it's next to impossible to imagine how, like, especially with their niche audience, or at least very niche compared to like the mainstream, compared to like the general public who does consume streaming services and the kind of content that they would even produce in the first place. Honestly, this is a one-way trip to failure. Either that, or like maybe they already won with the tax breaks and stuff like that, but who the fridge knows? Like, if like I know a lot of people wanted me to go and express my thoughts onto this. Well, there you have it. Those are my entire thoughts about the entire situation with what the Daily Wire is doing. And you'd be surprised, not a lot of it is related to politics. All right, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, what do you all think about this entire plot that the Daily Wire is doing with their animation division? Do you think this is going to work out? Do you think it's going to be a massive failure? Do you think they're just doing it for other reasons they're not telling their people about? Let me know what you all think. All right, let's see what we got here. Non-woke content, Guess the shows they'll make are going to be the most racist, homophobic, transphobic, everything phobic content you done seen. Yes, this entire animation division sounds absolutely terrible, but with how much of a train wreck these projects are inevitably going to be, all I'm going to say is, well, this I gotta see. Also, to take down Disney, Boring's got to bring in someone from Disney. What else did I expect from a dude whose last name sounds like a type of plane? And you know, the funny thing is that technically, like, they're already in the entertainment business, but nothing has really come out of it. Like, they've already been making a bunch of movies, and you've probably heard about the one starring Gina Carano, like the big movie that the Daily Wire is doing in order to go and uncancel Gina Carano to save her career from woke Disney. And ultimately, nobody gave a crap about it. Not even the most diehard conservatives gave a crap about that movie whatsoever. In fact, they don't even care about any of the movies that they have produced. And if their audience doesn't even care about the type of movies that they're creating, what makes you think that they're going to care about the children's programs that they're going to go and produce? And not to mention that with these guys, like, how can you, like, especially with the fact that they're aiming to be so non-woke, how can you be sure if they're not going to go and infuse their politics into this? You know, like, how can you, like, you know that they keep on complaining about, like, oh, I wish they ain't so political. I wish they don't force their politics. How can you go and trust them if they're not going to go and do the same thing? That they're not going to end up producing, like, whatever bullcrap nationalist propaganda, or that they're going to go and fill, like, as the comment stated, if they're going to end up filling it with, like, a whole bunch of stereotypes. You know, like with that Chinchilla series, are we going to see one character that'll suddenly have blackface? Are we going to have, like, one evil character that's going to be like this Jewish, like this evil Jewish rat? Like, you know what I'm talking about. Like, you know, in those Nazi propaganda posters, like, where you got, like, the evil, sneaky guy with the giant nose and the hunchback, and he's just there, like, like, how can I trust the Daily Wire that they're not going to go and make some kind of stupid crap like that? You know, you never know. And the more I think about it, the less likely that I'm going to go and even watch their content. Not even pirate it or anything like that. I mean, for sure, I'm never going to give them my money. Okay, let's see what we got here. Oh, I remember this. This sounds awful. I do not have the patience to deal with these people. God, Chris Sonnenburg, could you really not find another job after Tangled? Then again, I know he's an unpleasant person to work with. Ick. I feel scared for beginning animators working under him, trying to get their foot in the door and doing this job as a startup. Then the label of conservative or even just cheap labor would make it hard for other jobs in the industry. Yeah, I get what you mean there. Let's see now. Yeah, this is exactly what the world needs. More animated anti-left propaganda. And I thought the Jehovah's Witnesses got that covered with Caleb and Sophia. My existence, along as an autistic and pansexual individual, both things that that some conservatives would consider woke, is enough for the Daily Wire to not touch me with a 39.5-foot pole. I would say that this is a hard pass, but that's an understatement. You know, honestly, it has me thinking, actually, the fact that you brought up, like, Caleb and Sophia and the Jehovah's Witnesses and stuff like that, it does make me wonder if there actually is one person who would legit be willing to go and take a look at those cartoons. You know, and I might totally be wrong. And I mean, the guy himself might not even touch this with a 10-foot pole. But I would not be surprised if those Daily Wire cartoons would be the result of some future Saberspark cartoons. Like, honestly, they would, like, honestly, with the fact that, like, a lot of, like, especially with the fact that the main target audience that Jeffrey Boring wants to do, you know, the main target audience for the Daily Wire would be Christian conservatives, it would like, I wouldn't be surprised if they would seem like the kind of content that you would suddenly see Saberspark go and analyze. I could totally be wrong, and I mean, Saber, I'm not saying you have to do this, you know, and trust me, like, if you don't want to, I completely understand, but I just feel like, honestly, I would not be surprised if they would be the result of a Saberspark review, so, like, in the future, like, maybe in, like, 2024 or something like that. Let's see what else we have here. I am really not excited for this. With Chris Sonnenburg, considering his reputation that he had on the Tangled series, and the fact that he's coming in to do an anti-woke content for the Daily Wire, what I really don't think the animators will be treated fairly. So I have a strong feeling that this is going to be a disaster. Also, how much you want to bet that they would bring in a person like Butch Hartman next to scam more people? You know, I'm not gonna lie, I'm surprised that they have yet to bring in Butch Hartman. You know, like, I would not be surprised if inevitably they'll have a brand new series that they're going to work on, and it's going to be from none other than Butch Hartman. Like, that is going to be the inevitable. That's going to be like, come on, where is it, man? We know Butch is behind we know Butch is going to be a part of this. Okay, let's see what else we have here. This is going to end badly for the Daily Wire's animation department. They would have to go through everything which goes against their beliefs and be more of a liberal to get your animation division launched. I bet they won't last a few months if they do manage to launch, so no, it's going to end badly for them. But then again, I would argue, like, the division will end badly, but that could be the plan all along. Because again, you never know if their true intentions is actually for tax breaks instead of actually competing against Disney. Because I mean, like, even Warner Brothers Discovery has admitted that they don't have the right, you know, they don't have what it takes to go and compete Disney in the animation game. What the fridge makes you think that the Daily Wire can do so? All right, I'm gonna go and read one more comment before we go and move on to our next story. Let's see. Why of all news stations would the Daily Wire do such a move other than to indoctrinate thousands of kids? Can you ever imagine if Fox News makes that kind of decision? Well, I mean, technically, like, I like, not officially, but technically they did. and it's been doing extremely well. And it's like one of the most ironic things for like such a very for a very conservative company. They've been doing very well with what is often perceived as liberal content like The Simpsons, Family Guy, Bob's Burgers, and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to make that clarification. People would go absolutely nuts, just like Louis de Funès in the movie Oscar, where he totally loses it and makes all sorts of mimics just to express his frustration. I'm sorry, but I'm more comfortable with series like Archer. At least that one doesn't have too much political message. Yes, exactly. So, I mean, it's gonna be, like, either way, it's inevitably gonna be a massive bonfire, so, all I could say is, prep up the marshmallows, folks! Okay, so, with that said, it is time that we go and lighten up the mood with our next story. And with our next one, this is actually a fan-favorite animated content. For a while, for a good few years, it actually had a prominent fan base, but nothing really major came out of it. It was like a really popular web show, but then suddenly, well, for a while we have heard that they wanted to do a second season of it, but now it's going to have a major platform. And I guess in a way, Netflix came in to save the day, similarly to what they have done with Nimona, to go and revive a property that you never thought would go and fully see the light of day. So with that said, let's go ahead and check out the trailer for the upcoming Netflix series, Bee and Puppycat, Lazy in Space.
I got fired today. Now I'm out of jobs. Guess I kind of feel like a loser or something. I guess I wish I had a cat. It'd be nice to take care of something. Pink light. Wow, a cat. Or maybe a dog.
Somehow you've managed to get hired and fired from every listing we receive.
I'm here to take care of you. I can't pay for anything. I would use money, though, if I had a job. Please report to Temp Space for your next assignment. Sign below.
Whoa, a new hire. Welcome to Temp Space. You are now a Temp Space agent. My job is to make sure that you have a job. Please try your best if you want to get paid. If you don't, there might be some...
I knew it was you.
Our system's been compromised.
Pretending it's just a fairy tale. Lying to children, making them look up to a hero.
Puppycat, let him go!
Was that story you told true?
Please, Mom.
You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to. Well, there's nothing you could tell me that would make me change how I feel about you. Because I'm kind of dumb. I love you, Puppycat. Oh, Deckard.
Hey, Bee, were you just not gonna tell me you got fired?
Oh my god! Oh my god, you're a crush! I have ice for it!
And that was Bee and Puppycat, Lazy in Space, to which the series is going to be coming soon on Netflix starting September 6th. And I just want to go and make one big clarification that, honestly, I have heard of Bee and Puppycat before, but I've honestly never really seen any of the episodes, to be very honest. Not because, like, I don't like it or anything. It was just something that kind of flew over my radar. But I remember there was, like, a one little moment for, like, maybe a few years that it did get popular. It collected its own fan base, and then suddenly people just stopped talking about it anymore. But now that it looks like we're fully getting like a major experience of what Bee and Puppycat is going to be, especially with Lazy in Space right now, you know, just from watching this trailer, I will say that I do see a bit of the appeal of it. Like, one thing I can initially say is that from the looks of things, it reminds me like if Adventure Time is like a lot more anime oriented. Like if you ask a Japanese animation studio to create an anime inspired by Adventure Time, and it honestly shows where like you do have a little bit of that soft, round, and simple aesthetic that is reminiscent to the works of Penn Ward, and like even with the character, and especially like even with the characters, like it's from the expressions that it is very noticeable that like they are inspired by anime, that it has that anime type of humor, and even with how like even with this example, like everybody like having like big eyes when they notice like things have gone wrong in that cat cafe that Bee got fired from. But even like probably another good example is like even with this moment where you see like this giant demon where like captured Puppycat with her tongue, and then like you got Bee in the middle, like dressed up in a bit of her like She-Ra or Sailor Moon outfit, and even just with that silly little expression that she has, like like you could tell it has that anime influence. But then again, there's also like in terms of Adventure Time, that fantastical element into it where it can almost be described as psychedelic, where it kind of has its own style that's going on, that like it could range from being like very simple and cute, that you know you could have like the typical like small rounded smiley faces, and then like they would go into extreme stuff where they can go into some freaky lore, like some of the big monsters and demons that Bee and Puppycat would have to go and face. That there is that element where they do have that balance where they would shift around being all cute and being all scary. But then there's also another element that they have on both factors with the anime and with the Adventure Time aspect, is the use of colors. Like this, I gotta say, is a very bright movie, a very bright series. And you can tell like with all the different, like just from the aesthetic that you see, like they're using like, that they range from like very vibrantly, like strong, like, you know, like very pop out bright colors, or they would have like soft colors attached to them. Like it is like a calm lo-fi feeling that you would get when you would watch it. This isn't something that's like you know, this isn't the kind of thing that's like Yellow Submarine that's just bursting out with color. Like it does have a color palette. It does have something that's supposed to be at least somewhat relaxing to watch, because like even this shot right over here where you see the giant hand like crushing one side, like it ain't something that seems like relaxing, but you got like just the color tones of it all, and even like using colored lines is something that you would commonly see in anime, and does use it to pretty strong effect. But overall, just like with the animation, it does have that big, you know, that massive feeling where like you could tell it has like some aesthetics that's heavily inspired by shows like Adventure Time or Bravest Warriors, but then you would also have elements that really are based on anime, especially with Bee being this Sailor Moon type hero, and then like you would get a lot of the fantastical elements that do feel like they're from both elements. And I gotta say, like from the series, like from this trailer, in terms of the narrative and what they offer with the characters, it is kind of interesting, and I could totally see how people can get on board, especially for like millennials or for some Gen Z people, that they could be out of luck, and there could be a point in their lives that, you know, they're just having a really hard time trying to find a job and, you know, trying to survive in this society and all that kind of stuff, where like they're very hard pressed on money. So I could see how Bee can be a very relatable character. And even with Puppycat has that cute but feisty kind of look that I can imagine can really sell a lot of merchandise. And even the story, like this really does feel, you know, I know I keep on saying Adventure Time, but it has that massive world building where there is this massive psychedelic type of fantasy world that is going on, that like the more that you watch it and the more that you get into it, the crazier that it seems, but they could actually find a way for it all to go and make sense, that you learn a lot more about this world and where does Puppycat come from. So overall, as you know, like I can imagine for some people it might seem a little bit too crazy, it might seem a little bit too weird, but I could definitely see the appeal of it, and I could definitely see this go pretty far, where this would reignite the popularity of Bee and Puppycat. So for people who are excited to go and see this, I can completely understand why, especially when it has some very solid animation behind it. So if you guys are interested in checking out Bee and Puppycat Lazy in Space, then keep in mind it's going to be coming out on Netflix on September 6th. And with that said, I'm going to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, what did you think about that trailer of Bee and Puppycat? Are you guys impressed with what you have seen? Are you guys excited to check this out? Or are you a little bit concerned? Are you a little bit more hesitant? Especially if you are a fan of Bee and Puppycat, please let me know what you think. Okay. Oh, okay, we got a Bee and Puppycat fan. I watched Bee and Puppycat on Cartoon Hangover on YouTube for quite a while, and it was not bad. It wasn't my favorite, but it left a great impression to me. And for this trailer, I gotta say it looks pretty good. The animation is beautiful, the colors bring out a good vibe, and it does remind me of an anime version of Adventure Time. But even though I'm not a fan of Bee and Puppycat, I could give this a watch. Are you familiar with Bravest Warriors? Not really, honestly. I haven't seen an episode of it, but I've definitely heard of it, and I am definitely familiar with what it is. Let's see what we got here. The moment I first saw this trailer, I just thought it would be one of those anime type of shows, especially when it comes to the animation. But as it has progressed, it immediately took a turn for the real crazy and gave a real Adventure Time and Midnight Gospel vibe with its meta tone. Plus, it's quite funny. It looks like the showrunners really cared about this, so I consider watching this. All right, that's nice. What other comments do we have here? All right. Bee and Puppycat can look very good. I remember watching the first season on YouTube, and since it's from the same guy who created Adventure Time and Bravest Warriors, is it really? I can't really confirm that. You can really tell his art style here shining through with an anime twist, which is actually new for him. He mostly works in fantasy settings and sci-fi settings. Definitely be watching season 1 when it comes out. Again, I cannot confirm if this is legitimately... I don't even think this is actually from Penn Ward, so I just want to make that clarification. Let's see. I am honestly impressed that this went from a short cartoon on YouTube to a whole series on Netflix. I've only watched a bit of Bee and Puppycat before this, and I did enjoy what I saw, so I am really excited for this. The characters seem rather nice, the animation is pretty great, and holy heck, those villain designs are really wicked. And, I'll probably watch the rest on YouTube after this. Okay. And there's not a whole lot of other comments, so I'm gonna go and read one more. And yes, there's one person who confirmed that this isn't from Penn Ward. Okay, thank you for the clarification. Personally, I haven't really heard of Bee and Puppycat, but this trailer got me interested. The animation is really cool and very colorful, and it seems like a very creative animated series. And I'm actually getting a bit of more Steven Universe vibes from this series, so overall, I might give this a watch. All right, so there might be some interest in checking this out. And if you guys want, again, if you want to go and see Bee and Puppycat on Netflix, then keep in mind that they are going to be coming on September 6th. Okay, and one more thing, by the way, someone did actually confirm, clarify that Bee and Puppycat was actually made by an artist who worked on Adventure Time called Natasha Allegri. So thank you, King Cerulean, for the extra comment there. Okay, now, moving on to our next story that I have over here. Now, this may not be animation related, but it is crazy. And you guys gotta you just have to trust me on this one. this is worth seeing. This is worth talking about in the podcast because holy crap. This trailer that they've shown, like, maybe it's just the way that they've crafted it, but it really is wild. It really is crazy. So I just need to show you this. Without further ado, let's go ahead and check out the trailer for the Discovery Plus 3-part series, House of Hammer.
I am here to talk about what happened in my relationship with Armie Hammer.
Are you okay to bring up your phone?
Yeah.
I haven't really digested this one. I have a fantasy about having someone prove their love and devotion and tying them up in a public place at night and making their body for use and seeing if they will f strangers for me.
My bet was going to involve showing up at your place and completely tying you up and incapacitating you, and then being able to do whatever I wanted to every single hole in your body until I was done with you.
Oh, it gets worse.
In the beginning, I felt like this was all perfect. This was amazing.
He would say things, God, you're so perfect.
How could you be this beautiful, this smart, so funny?
It's like you were made for me.
But then things changed. He pushes your boundaries a little bit at a time. You're his, completely.
These are messages that are being sent literally within seconds of each other.
I mean, he said, I'm 100% a cannibal. I'm freaking out.
It was all he wanted to ever talk about.
Then I get a note that says I'm gonna bite the out of you. And he was just like acted mad. The ropes were around your neck, your wrists, your ankles, and you're like completely immobilized. And I'm just closing my eyes until it ended.
Hold on, there's more!
Once Courtney came forward, other women started coming forward.
How did Armie Hammer go from Hollywood golden boy to an alleged abuser?
When all this came out about Armie, I was not shocked.
You just don't wake up and become this dark controller, abuser.
This behavior, it's deep-rooted.
On the outside, we were a perfect family, but magnify Succession 1,000,000 times, and it was my family. If you believe about making deals with the devil, the Hammers are top of the totem pole.
Every generation in my family has been involved in dark misdeeds,
And it just gets worse and worse and worse. I know my grandfather had a dark side, but I saw my father's dark side firsthand. And I've seen my brother's dark side. It was like a monster unleashed. Now it's Armie Hammer.
It's just generation to generation.
I've let the Hammers control me my whole life. It's time to stop. I refuse to be silenced. My name is Casey Hammer, and I'm about to reveal the dark, twisted secrets of the Hammer family.
And that was House of Hammer, which is going to be coming soon to Discovery Plus on September 2nd. And I just want to go and add that, oh my god, no offense to you guys, but it is funny watching the chat wall, like slowly, but like just slowly indulging into the madness. They're just looking at it going, it's like, what is happening? I was like, what is happening? What is happening? What is happening? What is happening? Like, oh my god, it's like, now you know why I need to show you this. Like, it's just layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of the madness that is going on. And, and by the way, just to go and fully clarify something. So, like, for those of you who don't understand, like, what is fully going on, like, if you're still asking what is happening, let me go and, like, try to tell you this in a more sensible manner that doesn't seem as insane. So you probably know about Hollywood superstar Armie Hammer. A lot of people are even mentioning that in terms of animation, he was the voice of Jackson Storm in Cars 3. And he's also done like a whole other bunch of acting works. Like I believe he was in Love, Simon. And he was also recently in Death of the Nile. And by the way, can you guys correct me if it was Love, Simon, the movie that I am thinking about? You know, the one where Armie Hammer is like the love interest to this other guy. I just want to know if I got that right. No, oh, it's yeah. Call Me By Your Name. What the fridge was I thinking? Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry about that, people, but it's Call Me. Yeah, apparently, like, he really got big with Call Me By Your Name. So from there, he pretty much made himself a very established actor. But then last year, it actually turns out that there were tons of sexual assault allegations, and there were just a bunch of insane allegations with tons of evidence to actually go and prove it. That apparently he was into a lot of really freaky stuff. Like, even freaky to the point that it's no longer kinky and it becomes very much dangerous. As you've probably seen in the trailer, he is very much controlling, where he pretty much tells his girls that he owns them. And he would have desires of eating his girls. And when I say eating his girls, I don't mean going between their legs and just like pleasuring them with his mouth. I mean like full on eating like a freaking cannibal. Like he would just boast around going like, you know how guys like to go and eat pussy and eat ass? I like to go more than just that. I like to eat thighs. I like to eat legs. I like to eat fingers. I like to eat eyeballs. I like to eat ears. Oh yeah, there are plenty more delicious aspects on the human body, if you know what I mean. Like, he would go really that far. And more, we see kind of the insanity that is going on with Armie Hammer, where his sexual desires are just way too dangerous, and it resulted in a lot of abusive relationships that many victims unfortunately went through. And this ultimately has destroyed Armie Hammer's career to the point that he no longer has access to the family fortune, and his acting career is pretty much dead. Nowadays, it was actually reported that he's now working as a concierge at a hotel in I believe it's in the Galapagos Islands. So yeah, like, you can pretty much be assured that you won't be hearing about Armie Hammer in a movie anytime soon. But with this trailer, with what they're showing here with the House of Hammer, it actually shows that his behavior actually goes beyond that, because it was actually something that he inherited from his family. Now, you probably have made some jokes about Armie Hammer and how, like, his name is very closely related to the to the baking soda. It's like, Armie Hammer sounds like Arm and Hammer. Well, actually, believe it or not, that is not a coincidence, because Armie Hammer is actually a descendant from the Hammer family, the people who have actually made their fortune from the baking soda. And apparently they have a very long history of abusive relationships, of just being completely messed up, where apparently the entire family is about as psychotic as Armie Hammer is. And that's why we got like one of the more sane family members, Casey Hammer, where she steps up and actually reveals everything and just says like, yeah, no, it was only a matter of time that Armie Hammer would be revealed to be like this insane and all that kind of stuff. So basically with this documentary, it just shows the layers upon layers upon layers of just the insanity of not just Armie Hammer, but just the entire Hammer family, of how completely messed up that they are. Where being like on top of the privileged food chain, being this rich, being this wealthy white American family, like, can really get to your head and can make you do some really crazy things, like making you think that you're invincible and that you could do things that normally would be considered illegal, such as being a cannibal. But one thing that I do have to say when it comes to this trailer, and I'm going to say this right now, I do believe what the victims have to say based on their experience. I totally buy that. But I gotta say, this trailer really does feel like it's over dramatizing the entire situation. Like, they really, like, I will say, the trailer did a good job building up, like, the insanity of everything, showing that things are just worse and worse and worse about the whole Hammer situation. But it really does, it doesn't feel like they're presenting us a documentary. It just feels like this really insane and messed up horror movie. Like, if you didn't know that any of this was based on a true story, this honestly feels like an entire plot line for, it actually feels like this entire plot line for a Jordan Peele movie. Like, imagine there would be this scenario where Jordan Peele, he's talking with Universal executives, and he's just brainstorming, and he's like, okay, guys, here's my next movie. I got the perfect scenario. Imagine this. You got this beautiful girl, and she suddenly, she stumbles upon this amazing actor, this very well-established, handsome man, got a great career, has a tremendous amount of wealth. She falls in love with him. He falls in love with her. They all have this great fairy tale relationship. Her life is like a true Disney movie come true. And then suddenly she meets the family. And slowly but surely, when she meets that family, she realized that they're all entirely insane, that they're all abusive, that they're all evil, that they all have some serious issues inside that makes them go absolutely crazy. And to top it all off, it is slowly discovered that the handsome man that the girl falls in love with is a cannibal, that he loves to eat people. What do you guys think, eh? Do you think it's going to be a winner? All right, perfect. Let's go and make this movie. Thank you for giving me the $50 million budget needed. It really does feel, like, just from the whole setting, it really feels like some kind of, like, twisted, exaggerated thriller that's supposed to be, like, some kind of commentary about the upper class and stuff like that. It's just, like, again, I don't blame any of the victims. I do believe what they say is actually true about Armie Hammer and the entire Hammer family. It's just, like, the way that it is framed, it does feel like they're kind of, like, over dramatizing everything, and they're kind of making it look like some kind of, like, scary some kind of, like, scary thriller that you would expect out of, like, some kind of Blumhouse movie. But either way, overall, I just wanted to show you all this trailer because everything about it just feels absolutely crazy. Like, I know the scenario with Armie Hammer is already insane enough, but just the way that this trailer was framed, I just had to go and share it with you guys because this really does emphasize the crazy of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. All right, so with that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, what do you all think about the trailer I showed you of House of Hammer? Are you guys curious to actually go and watch this? Are you still in shock of what you have witnessed? Let me know what you think. Okay, let's see here. Jesus Christ, Matt, can't believe this type of crap exists with Armie Hammer. What the hell is wrong with him and why got him into being insane? All because of his family? That's really messed up. I just hope the victims are doing well after dealing with it. But yeah, the show itself looks like something out of a horror film. Discovery Plus always does that with their shows like Oinison. I don't know. I'm never that familiar with what they're doing. Let's see now. I'm not even sure what I just watched. With Armie Hammer, I am aware of the absolute manic. But honestly, this trailer feels like something you see out of a horror movie, and I honestly don't know what Discovery Plus and it's just nuts. Also, because we got an Armie Hammer documentary, how much you want to bet a documentary on Ezra Miller and his insanity? Oh, I think it's gonna be not far off. I think eventually, like, if they're gonna do one on Armie Hammer, I think like Ezra Miller is gonna be not far off. It's just right now, their problem is ongoing, so we just need to go and wait until there is a legitimate conclusion before that documentary comes. Let's see. Guess many people will never look at Armie Hammer again after appearing in films like Social Network, Lone Ranger, Death of the Nile, which was his last uncanny appearance, if anyone has seen it, and especially Call Me By Your Name thanks to this trailer. While it is too over the top and too dramatized, I would be down to check it out and see what went down over with victims, Hammer and his family, so I can't wait to check it out. And I can't believe it. Yeah, and especially Call Me By Your Name, which is supposed to be like, it's supposed to be like his peak performance. But then again, I think with what happened with Armie Hammer, Call Me By Your Name has now been turned into a horror flick. Because you're going to see like the advances, like, going in for the kiss, and everybody's just going to watch it going, no! Oh, boy. Let's see what we got here. In hindsight, I feel like Armie Hammer should have played Christian Grey for 50 Shades. I mean that's basically what Jackson Storm becomes in Cars fanfics when shipped with Cruise. This documentary looks interesting, but still disturbing to a hilarious degree. Honestly, it's like a real life Foxworth family, but with less incest. Flowers in the Attic series. Armie Hammer should be far away from people. Honestly, you do bring up a very good point, and that is the big problem with this trailer, is that it's so over the top and it's like so over dramatized that it comes to the point that I understand why people would find it to be a little bit difficult to take this seriously. It's like, it's like so horrific to the point that it's almost comical, which, I mean, it shouldn't be, because a lot of people did legitimately get hurt in this situation. But yeah, it's just, it's honestly just crazy. And also, like, no, well, honestly, like, the idea of having Armie Hammer play Christian Grey for 50 Shades, like, on one hand, no, because that would be going a little bit too far. But on the other hand, it would make things a little bit more interesting. Suddenly Armie Hammer decided, okay, we're gonna do, like, Armie Hammer comes in, all right, baby, listen to me. We're going to do a little bit of Muppet roleplay. You're going to be Miss Piggy. Oh, and you're going to be Kermit? No, I'm going to be the Swedish chef. Okay, I'm going to read one more before we move on to the grand finale. Let's see. Well, that settles it. Armie Hammer is the definition of the phrase, and pardon my language here, my expectations for you were low, but holy shit! That seriously may have been the most insane thing I've seen in a while. And I just watched a Disney Channel sitcom where the brother falls in love with his sister in a kangaroo outfit. Oh, I'm not kidding. That's real. I'm honestly stunned that this rabbit hole just got deeper and deeper until it becomes bottomless. Exactly. That's that's the perfect way to describe House of Hammer, or at least this trailer. It just feels like a massive rabbit hole where you just keep going down and down and down. You don't know where it ends, and the further deeper that you go, the more insane that it all becomes. So overall, if you guys are interested to check out what the fridge is happening with House of Hammer, then keep in mind it's going to be coming soon on Discovery Plus September 2nd. And now, folks, it is now time that we shall go into the grand finale. And we are going to be jumping from one insane individual to another insane individual. And in terms of this one, this is like a little bit of an update in terms of what happened with Warner Brothers Discovery. You guys probably do remember last time I have discussed in length about, oh, excuse me, folks, oh my. Anyways, you probably do recall last time where I talked about the entire situation with Warner Brothers Discovery, where they wanted to go and make a major update to their streaming platform, where they want to go and combine HBO Max with Discovery Plus. But while they were doing that, they would go and full-on cancel several projects, some of which have already been completed, including Scoob Holiday Haunt and, very controversially, Batgirl. And from there, this caused massive backlash against Warner Brothers Discovery, even to the point where their stocks actually took a dip after their announcements in terms of their plans. Now, we do have a bit of an update in terms of what's going on. And unfortunately, there have been some layoffs, but it's not a massive amount. Apparently, it's been said that around 70 people have unfortunately lost their jobs and have been laid off by Warner Brothers Discovery. But that's not who we're going to be talking about here. What I'm talking about is going to be regarding one person that has been on Warner Brothers Discovery's radar, and their situation has just been worse and worse and worse and worse. And who I'm talking about is regarding Ezra Miller. Yes, Ezra Miller is in frickin' trouble again. What the fridge did this non-binary bastard do now? Well, apparently you might have heard that not long after the announcements about the fact that, they still want to do the Flash movie, and that David Zaslav, the CEO of WBD, still wants to go and, still wants to release it. Well, apparently Ezra Miller got arrested. Yes, got caught by the police and been thrown in jail. I mean, eventually I had to use that sound clip somewhere. But this time around, the reason why Miller got arrested was because they ended up stealing some liquor in someone's house. Yeah, like, I kid you not. Ezra decided, okay, I'm gonna go and break into someone's home, steal their booze, and just reap in the rewards. That's all they did. But apparently, they ended up getting caught by the police and ended up getting arrested for that. And because of that, this put Warner Brothers in a pretty dire situation. Like, now their situation has gone pretty bad right now, where they don't know what they want to do with this individual. They don't know about they don't know if the situation is going to get better, if the situation is going to get worse. They just don't know what the fridge are they going to do with Ezra Miller. Now, they really don't want to go and cancel The Flash. Like, they're doing everything in their power to keep the Flash movie alive as much as possible. Especially with the fact that they've already invested $200 million onto the movie itself. And I don't think that actually counts for all the marketing and the publicity that they want to prepare for next year. However, they have already established they've already established some options of what they're going to do with Ezra Miller. And I'm going to read you here from my source on The Hollywood Reporter in terms of what they want to do with them. So, we got option 1, and this is the best case scenario. Warner's has received indications that the 29-year-old Miller, whose mother has accompanied the actor in recent days, will seek professional help after returning home to their farm in Vermont after being away. If that happens, Miller, who goes by they/them pronouns, could give an interview at some point explaining their erratic behavior over the past few years. The actor could then do limited press for The Flash, and the movie would be open in cinemas as planned. Then we got option 2. And this is where the scenario kind of is right now. Even if Miller doesn't reach out for help, Warner's could still release the film. But don't expect Miller to play a prominent role in terms of marketing and publicity, nor would Miller be the Flash going forward, as the role would be recast in future projects. And then there is option 3. And this is the worst case scenario as to what could happen. The situation with Miller deteriorates further. This would see Warner's killing the movie outright, as it could not be reshot with a different actor. Miller plays multiple characters and is in almost every scene. Scrapping a $200 million film would be an unprecedented move. And that's currently the situation with what they are doing right now with Ezra Miller. It's just either get Miller some help, either release the movie but try to undermine the Miller aspect, or just cancel the entire movie. Because I know right now, the biggest pressure that's currently going on with Warner Brothers Discovery is to do something either about Ezra Miller or to do something about The Flash. They have to do one thing or another, but it seems like the more time that they are spending doing nothing, the more that the situation is just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Especially when it comes to Miller's behavior, where, yeah, like right now, the recent thing in terms of like being arrested for stealing alcohol, yeah, like that's pretty much nothing compared to the things that they've done in the past. Like, we've already seen multiple clips in where Ezra Miller was beating up women, like, just because. We've seen Ezra Miller, like, having, like, not just recorded, but, like, plenty of other history where they were being very abusive and especially being an absolute menace in Hawaii. And then there was actually some recent reports where, like, this could be the worst case scenario, that there might be a case of grooming where Ezra Miller has, where Ezra Miller was living with this woman and their 2 kids. And apparently the baby was actually found with a loose bullet in her hair. Apparently that's what the reports have said. In fact, I think there might be something that might have explained what happened specifically. Just want to know if there actually might be a situation if they could actually say that, because right now a lot of it is just about stealing bottles and let's see. No, this is the part. Okay, so we got this one that talks about his their shenanigans in Hawaii. Sorry about that. The latest charge comes after Miller was arrested in April in Hawaii and booked on suspension of second-degree assault. Per the Hawaiian Island Police Department, this incident reportedly occurred when Miller was attending a get-together at a private residence and became irate after being asked to leave and reportedly threw a chair, striking a 26-year-old female on the forehead. So there was that, but that's not the major one that I want to see. But is there anything that let's see. No, okay, maybe they didn't say it, but I know that actually was the case. I know that they actually had a scenario where there might be some possible grooming that is going on. So the thing is right now, the funny thing is that, like, we know that with Ezra Miller, their case is just becoming worse and worse and worse and worse. And it feels like over time, they're just becoming a lot more insane as time moves on. And we don't know what the reason could be. We don't know if it's actually become fame, if it's because fame is just really getting into their head and they really do think that they are invincible. Maybe it's because of some kind of mental illness that they have that hasn't been established. We're just not 100% sure of what is their behavior. What is the explanation in terms of their behavior? And I'll admit, I have been following a bit about what has been going on in terms of the case with Ezra Miller, mainly because I've been listening to what Double Toasted had to say in terms of the Ezra Miller situation and like pretty much keeping up updates with all the crazy scenarios they found themselves in. And I do highly recommend to go and check them out. I mean, they're a great podcast in general, but they really do cover it well in terms like of the whole situation and what is happening with the Flash, like what is happening with the Flash movie. And I remember like during one of their during one of Ezra Miller's big controversies, they actually brought up a good point as to why the Flash should not be canceled. They mentioned how like technically it would be extremely unfair for the hundreds of other people who have worked on the movie, especially for like the visual effects crew, that just because of the behavior of one individual, they would end up scrapping the entire project and they would end up losing the hard work that many other people has done. And in terms of that, I completely do understand. Like, okay, that's actually a very fair excuse, considering that it's not just Ezra Miller that's a part of the Flash. It's like tons of other people who have worked on it, and just scrapping their hard work altogether, like, it would just seem absolutely unfair. But then, last week, came the news about Batgirl being canceled, where Warner Brothers Discovery decided to take a movie that was nearly complete, like over 90% done, and decided to just throw it in the trash altogether. Never to be seen, like, in any way, shape, or form. Not in theaters, not in streaming, like, just scrap it and throw it deep in the garbage where no one could go and actually find it. And this ended up adding so much fuel to the fire of the Ezra Miller situation, because the thing is that with that movie, like, there really is no reason as to why it needed to be outright canceled altogether, especially when all the actors or the prominent actors involved, they have no history of any form of controversy, at least in the levels of Ezra Miller. Like, Leslie Grace did nothing wrong, J.K. Simmons did nothing wrong, Michael Keaton did nothing wrong, and he's supposed to also be in The Flash, and Brendan Fraser did nothing wrong. So it really does feel extremely unfair that they would go, that Warner Brothers Discovery would go and completely cancel that, and yet still do absolutely nothing with The Flash that actually stars someone who I could honestly say is an absolute criminal. And yeah, they can go and argue and say that, oh, well, the movie is not being well received, the movie is just not good, and that's why we had to scrap it because the quality is not at where we are. It's like, bull crap, man. It's all part of your big scheme to go and reboot your streaming service, and it's all part of your and you just wanted to have like a freaking tax break. You just don't want another Zack Snyder's Justice League where you feel like you wasted millions of dollars for nothing. So, and honestly, at that point, it brings the idea of cancellation onto the table, where it feels like you got much more of a reason why you should go and cancel The Flash instead of Batgirl, especially like with an extremely problematic person starring it, like Ezra Miller. And that's why, like, with the plan that they got overall, like with this 3-tier plan that they do have, like going with one option or whatever, it honestly feels like we're pretty much at the point where, for me, like, I do understand their ideas of what they want to do and what could lead to like one way or another or something like that. Like, one thing that I could say right now is that I could totally imagine that right now, and by the way, just want to ask, you guys can still hear me, right? Like, you guys can still you guys can still see me, like the stream is still good? Okay, yeah, okay, everything seems fine. I don't know, I just got a little bit worried for a sec. Anyways, sorry about that little interruption, but yes, as I was saying, we're pretty much at the point that with these options, I can understand where they're going with it, but over here, I feel like one way or another, I think like it's safe to say that Warner Brothers is no longer going to be working with Ezra Miller. Even if Miller does seek the professional help that they so desperately need, like all the controversy and stuff like that, it's enough to go and just full on separate themselves from the entire equation. You know, they don't want they don't want to take the risk of like a possible relapse. So that's why they have to go. Like, there's no way that Ezra Miller is going to play the Flash in the future, nor would Ezra Miller appear in any other Warner Brothers movie afterwards. So honestly, I think that's going to be off the table no matter what Ezra Miller does. And I'm just going to say right now, the situation that technically that we are in, like, I feel like we're pretty much right in the center. We're in the second scenario where technically Ezra Miller has yet to explain or apologize for their erratic behavior or their insane behavior, but Warner Brothers is still gonna go and release it regardless. And I feel like at this point, if nothing changes whatsoever, Warner Brothers is gonna be losing millions on The Flash. Like, I know there have been reports where they say that, oh, the Flash movie is actually going to be really good and Ezra Miller was actually a really good actor in there. But still, the controversy is still going to be absolutely prominent. And it will guarantee deter audiences to actually go and watch that movie, ultimately making it a massive box office flop, especially the fact that they've already invested $200 million. It doesn't matter how good that Flash movie is going to be. There is no way that Warner Brothers Discovery is going to ever recoup that money if they're just going to go and keep an extremely problematic actor as their star. And I mean, yeah, they'll probably do whatever they can to minimize to minimize Ezra Miller's presence in the marketing, but that's still not going to change that social media is going to do the job for them to remind everyone that Ezra Miller is the Flash. And honestly, at this point, I don't know what the fridge they're waiting for. Like, if the worst case scenario would happen, like, what is it exactly? What is it that's holding them back from actually canceling it right now? Like, what is it that Ezra Miller needs to do in order to, like, ensure that the Flash movie would be canceled? Would it be, like, do they need to confirm that Ezra Miller actually groomed a minor to say that it's officially over? Does Ezra Miller need to actually murder someone? Like, honestly, I feel like we're pretty much at the point where it doesn't seem like things are getting better with Ezra Miller. And every time you hear them in the news, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And that, you know, that every time Ezra Miller pops up in a headline, you know it's because they did something absolutely insane and that they might be at the point where they're starting to harm people. Or I mean, we're already at the point that they are harming people, but the way they're harming people might get significantly worse. So yeah, honestly, overall, I'm pretty much honestly, it's at the point where it feels absolutely insane. And the more I hear about this news, the more that it really does discourage me from watching The Flash altogether. Honestly, like, I didn't have a whole lot of interest to begin with, but I feel like with the kind of behavior that Ezra Miller is presenting and the way that Warner Brothers Discovery is doing a minimal amount of effort to actually help solve the situation, like, it's making me less and less and less interested, where I'd rather want to stay away from that Flash movie than anything, regardless of how good it may be. Like, it could turn out to be the best DCEU movie, and it would still I would still refuse to go and check it out. So honestly, this whole situation is just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, personally, I feel like it's probably for the best to just scrap it all, scrap the entire Flash movie altogether, and for WBD to just make a tax write down like they did with Batgirl. But yeah, I just feel like the more this keeps on, continuing, the more it's getting worse for both Ezra Miller and Warner Brothers Discovery. And with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you all, How do you feel about the Ezra Miller situation? Are you guys a little bit worried about what's going on with Ezra Miller? Do you think the situation could be better? Do you think the situation could be worse? Also, if Ezra Miller does apologize for their behavior, would you accept their apology? Let me know what you think. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, no, Ezra Miller has done too much damage. Warner Brothers needs to just dump them. Getting them help is too late. I've watched too much true crimes to know that the help hasn't helped for groomers and abusers. It's not impossible, but they shouldn't be anywhere near children or women without a restraint. Warner Brothers are dependent on The Flash to be a success. While it is intriguing to see an insane criminal as the lead hero, might make people interested. It won't be enough to make its money back. Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's see. This might be harsh, but can't just WB cancel the freaking movie already? It's gonna get to a point where it does matter how much money was spent on the movie. With a person that is as toxic and psychotic as Ezra Miller, canceling the movie entirely might be the best option. Also, Matt, I just have to ask an honest question. How would you feel if the Flash movie was a hit? It's extremely unlikely, especially with a stupidly expensive budget, but how would you feel if that outcome were to happen? I guess it would depend on what the situation of Ezra Miller would be. I mean, we still have a long way to go. Technically, the Flash movie is supposed to come out in June of 2023. And in that regard, there's still plenty of time maybe for Ezra Miller to go and recover and to go and heal up their image so that they can become a better person. And I mean, it all depends. And maybe if Ezra Miller proved themselves that they have become a better individual than they were before, then, maybe it wouldn't, maybe it wouldn't be that big of a deal if the Flash would become a hit. But if it does so, and Ezra Miller is still highly problematic as they are today, then yeah, I think we're going to raise questions about society and asking questions regarding people. Honestly, it's it's at the point where we all have to question regarding humanity. Let's see now. Nothing but madness all around. I do feel bad for actors like Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton and everyone else working in the Flash movie. Since this movie has a lot of good talent, it's just unfortunate that they have a crazy person like Miller. Also, kudos for you, AniMat, for using Miller's right pronouns. They might not be a good person, but I know you're not one of those guys who would misgender them for no reason other than, oh, they're still an awful person, so who cares if we misgender? I mean, yeah, admittedly, I have misgendered Ezra Miller for on a few social media posts, but I have trained myself to try to use the they them pronouns instead of using he him. But honestly, this might be a bit of a controversial take, but I feel like this is a pretty dire situation where it feels like it's getting worse and worse and worse, where, I feel like now is not necessarily the best time to go and educate people to say like, you need to say they, them. Ezra Miller is non-binary. I don't know. I just feel like in terms of that situation, it just makes the case where it feels like your priorities are like kind of screwed up, where you value more about using the right pronouns than to actually stop an insane individual who is causing harm to many different people. So honestly, I just feel like we're in a case that, can we first put Ezra Miller in a cage before we go into the discussion of pronouns? Again, I know it's controversial, and I mean, I am doing my part to use the right pronouns of it, but this shouldn't be a case where you should get angry and tell people it's like, no, you should say they, them. Because, I mean, again, we got a lunatic on the loose. Let's go take care of that first. Let's see now. What else we got here? I would personally go with option 3 and just cancel the movie altogether. I know many people work hard to make the Flash movie, but if it weren't for WBD canceling the Batgirl and Miller keeps on getting worse and worse and worse to the point that Miller might kill someone in the future, which WB, pardon my language, is doing jack all about it. So if they have to cancel, even if the movie is good, Miller is a lost cause overall. I see what you mean there. It still hurts to think that WB were willing to cancel Batgirl, and yet they're more than happy to make this stupid Flash movie. I personally feel like this movie, even if Miller seeks help, is entirely hopeless, and is just heading down the road to absolute failure. So it goes without saying that I'm not excited for this crap at all. Not even the comeback of Michael Keaton Batman is going to convince me that this is going to be a good movie. All right, I think I'm going to read one more comment before we cap this off, and just want to see if we do have one more to read. Okay, yeah. Oh, look, Ezra Miller did something stupid again. What a surprise. Honestly, when it comes to The Flash, I think no matter what they do with the movie, at this point, it will be a disaster, especially when Ezra Miller will still be relevant. So honestly, I think they just need to cancel the movie altogether, because for me, I am officially boycotting The Flash if it comes out, because I refuse to support someone like Ezra Miller. Yep, and I think with that said, that should go and cap off this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Man, what a wild ride it was, but man, I'm glad that we managed to get through it all safe and sound. So with that said, I want to say thank you all so much for joining me on this fun little adventure. And also just a quick reminder that if you would like to go and watch this live stream without any interruption from the ads, then please go and subscribe to my Twitch channel, AniMat Live. But at the same time, don't forget to go and subscribe to the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel, as well as to go and follow me on whatever podcast service you're listening on, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or whatever. So with all that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.